All right, at this point, you should have developed some serious control playing 16th notes on your right foot and your left foot. As we said earlier, we're keeping basic time on a hi-hat, on a ride bell, splash, if you have a clave, if you have a click track, even better. So, to recap the last lesson, we're basically looking at this. Left foot. Not as sharp as the right foot, but, you know, we work on that. The thing about developing your feet first is they just don't do what your hands can do. They're designed to pick you up, carry you around, run you away from danger, take you down to the grocery store. They don't even, your legs don't even feel as much pain. They don't even notice it until there's damage. So what we're doing is we're really trying to take extra time to develop that. You have to take into consideration what your hands and arms are capable of doing, but when you do something like use a doorknob with your non-dominant hand or you eat with your non-dominant hand, you kind of like, whoa, this is really kind of messed up. So what you're dealing with when it comes to bass drum pedals is two non-dominant limbs. So that's what we've done. So now what we're going to try and do is put them together with the hands in order to create, which is going to help you with single foot blast, 2-foot blast, and overall general limb alignment. You're going to be able to make things really nice and square. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a hand and foot linear between right foot, snare drum, then we're going to switch to the left foot with the snare drum. Looks like this. Now this is really good exercise. You could play along with like familiar thrash metal records, like Metallica records, Anthrax records, Slayer records, and just try and do this with your non-dominant side. For instance, all of those guys back in the day, most of them played this stuff right hand on cymbals, left hand on snare, right foot on kick drum. So what you want to be doing is putting on your Slayer records or your Anthrax records and doing it more like left foot, right hand. So you have something that normally looks like this. Looking more like this. And of course, as you keep moving, the goal is not necessarily to increase the BPM. As you're staying at this slower BPM, you're really watching your technique. You're really zooming in on whether or not your wrists are working right, your ankles are working right. Are your pinkies out? Are they in? You want them in? And things like that. You want to feel things. How far up your back are you feeling it? How far in your knees and your hips are you feeling it? These are the things that you need to be correcting as you're staying in this tempo. This is not a race to get to the next 10 BPM. However, we're going to go a little bit faster. We're going to look at this technique just a little bit more, and I'm going to add a little bit of orchestration around the toms, and I will explain why in a second. Here we go. So what you had there was the start, which you had snare, right hand, right foot, snare and kick. I just kind of chose this at random. And then just sort of moved it around the toms. It's the same pattern. You start seeing things like accents through the use of rim shots. And you start seeing like the feel changes going by marking time differently on the hi-hats. Quarter notes, whole notes. Quarter notes, half notes, things like that. The important part about it orchestrating around the toms is when you're playing a blast beat, you're on your snare drum, and there's a lot of bounce to this. So check this out. That's pretty easy in comparison to So what we're dealing with here is non-bouncy surfaces, and they all feel a little bit different. 8-inch rack tom is obviously going to be the easiest thing to do a roll on that is not your snare drum or your ride cymbal or the bow of your hi-hats. 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. I have 5 rack toms. I have 2 snare drums. They all feel a little bit different. So it's important that when we're working on getting our blast beats, getting our single hand and foot linear patterns totally cleaned up, we're moving all around these toms, we're experiencing all these different surfaces. The same applies for when you're at home and you're practicing rudiments on a pillow as compared to practicing rudiments on a rubber pad that bounces a lot. You need to be able to understand how to jump from all of these sources in order to keep everything sounding really clear. Another one of my favorite things about this exercise is it really allows me to push more of a ambidexterity thing to my playing. I'm nowhere near ambidextrous, but I like to be able to strengthen my left side just to make everything easier to do. Playing in the center of the kit as compared to playing more over here on the left side of the kit as a right-handed drummer, coming this way for drum fills. So I'm going to do the same linear pattern only I'm going to switch in and out of hands. This is, again, only the right foot. But at this point in time, we're working on linear patterns, and we're learning how to cut in and out with different hands, keeping this kick drum straight 16th notes. Again, building your endurance, building your cleanliness. Here we go. Now what you're going to notice is somewhere in there, towards the very end, my hits kind of started to land on top of each other. And I'm going to leave that there because I think that's an important thing to see, because this is where you start dealing with where the notes are going to land. In this case, are they going to be unisons or are they going to be linear? And mastering that amount of space between those notes, or making them really tight, is everything between the difference of like straight linear to straight unisons to a flam. So, coming out of hand and foot linear, going into unisons. This will be covered in the next lesson. I will show you an example really quickly before we go. See you at the next lesson.